Listeners, add us to WhatsApp today, 925-3261. That's 925-3261.
Radio Cayman.
Send a text or voice note.
Message us at 925-3261 on WhatsApp today and get active with Radio Cayman.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
The Buzz is proudly sponsored by Cayman Insurance Center, specializing in property, life, and other lines of insurance products and services. And Kirk Market, experience a world of choice. And Automotive Art Cayman, your car, our passion. And by Dorman Day, celebrating 10 years of opening doors to brighter futures. Visit dormanday.ky.
And now, Radio Cayman presents The Buzz, an insightful and fresh take on a variety of issues that impact the local environment. This is where we address the topics that matter. Here's your host, Kathy Miller.
Good morning, Cayman. Welcome to The Buzz. I'm your host, Kathy Miller. I hope everybody's feeling positive today, upful, hopeful. I hope everybody's putting some good thoughts and prayers towards our friends next door in Jamaica. I think that Cat 5 is about to hit them. It didn't hit them about an hour ago. It was still reaching the island there. And all I know is that I'm scared to death. And I just really pray that everybody in Jamaica will be okay. I am wearing my gold today. You know, a little bit of sunshine, a little bit of gold, one of Jamaica's colors. So I'm, trying to bring that upfulness and just praying that Hurricane Melissa picks up a lot of speed and just moves out of the way really fast, because we don't want it to linger. We know what that's like, right? So prayers and thoughts go to Jamaica for today, and then the other nations that are likely to be hit or feel the brunt of Hurricane Melissa. On this segment of The Buzz this morning, we're not going to be talking about hurricane stuff. I know a lot of people are curious about that, but we are continuing our Procurement Talk series. Now, at the end of September, I did welcome the Central Procurement Office to give us an overview of how the government procurement system works. Then on October 16th, I held a roundtable discussion with some entrepreneurs in Cayman from the creative industry, construction industry, and interior design industry. And we discussed their experiences with government procurement, the good, the bad, and the frustrating. And today, we're going to continue that conversation, but this time we're welcoming back from the Central Procurement Office. We have Deputy Director Robert Tatum. He's going to respond to the frustrations and the feedback and the suggested solutions on improving the government procurement process that our guests from October 16th roundtable shared. So if time allows, we're also going to talk about some of the findings from the Auditor General's 2024 report, which identified 57 procurement violations across 20 public bodies. So our goal this morning, it's very simple, is just to understand where the process stands, what's being done to fix it, and how Cayman's procurement system can be made more transparent, consistent, and fair for everybody. So welcome to The Buzz, Robert Tatum. It's good to have you back.
Yeah, thank you very much. Happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you here. And I want to remind listeners that he is the walking edition of the law, the procurement law we have. So he's full of knowledge here. And I did say when I start the show, I will issue another apology, because when I did have that roundtable discussion, although I have notes right in front of me, sometimes, you look up and you talk. And I misquoted some things, which was a couple of times I said it was 57 violations just within central procurement, and that is not the case. It was across 20 public bodies. There were some within the CPO, but not 57 violations. So that is my apology to you as well. Again, now that I got you face to face here, because if I'm wrong, I'm definitely going to address that and fix that and let our listeners know that as well. So we're just going to move right into it. And Robert, just give an introduction of who you are, your role with the Central Procurement Office.
So, hi to everyone out there, and also want to echo those sentiments around Jamaica and the storm, just to get that out there as well. So my name is Robert Tatum. I'm the Deputy Director for the Central Procurement Office. The Central Procurement Office is mainly responsible for advice and training to government entities carrying out procurement. We also provide the e-procurement system, which is Bonfire. I know we'll be touching on that a little bit, as well as all of the templates that are required to be used throughout the process.
All right, thank you. Now we're going to get right into all the feedback that was given and what the entrepreneurs had to say when they discussed their procurement process or their experience with the procurement process within government. Now, you gave the role of what the Central Procurement Office does, but once an RFP, so this is one of the big issues, a request for proposal. Once a request for a proposal is issued and evaluated, who's ultimately responsible for that bidder feedback?
So it's the entity that issues the RFP. So for example, if it's construction, it's more than likely Public Works, for example, things like that. If it's something related to education, it's probably the Ministry of Education or the Department of Education Services. So each ministry and some departments are going to have their individual units responsible for that procurement. So they have the CPO, so Central Procurement Office, as a resource should they need to advise or should they need some advice on what to do and sometimes what not to do. But they are ultimately responsible for that. The law actually requires each procurement to have a procurement contact listed because we want that single point of communication so that, one, there aren't mixed messages, but there's also that kind of continuity of messaging as well. So we'll have cases where a single vendor will ask, two vendors might ask the same question, and you want to make sure the same answer goes out. It's not a difference in interpretation, difference in understanding of the project, things like that. So it is the entity that issues that procurement that's responsible for communication.
And they have one person responsible per se for that.
Correct. There should
project.
be one person specifically. Anyone else that gets asked, because another issue we have all the time is people will call around, I know someone in that department, let me contact them, this type of thing. That's not helpful. And the law specifically talks about us as government entities making sure we forward that communication to that procurement contact so that they can communicate. It shouldn't be multiple sources of information there.
And, to admit it, I do that all the time. I know somebody, I'm going to call that person and get my little in with them. That's a very normal behavior from people, right? You're always taught to use your so-called connections, but that's where part of the issue lies, right?
Well, a part of the issue is that some of those actions, which are not actions taken by the government, they're actually actions taken by the vendors, can lead a procurement to be non-compliant.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, the law requires us to answer all questions that come in during the question period, and we have to answer those publicly. So if questions come in that we aren't aware of, and those have been answered individually, meaning they aren't answered publicly, then that creates an issue. It creates an unfair competitive advantage for that vendor, which is obviously what that vendor is seeking. But it can create a non-compliance within that procurement. So you trying to get an advantage can get the entire procurement cancelled and frustrate the entire process.
Everyone, all the people bidding, the people
Correct.
putting the procurement together.
So
yes.
These are the things that can create significant issues that are outside of our control. I know a lot of people think government controls everything. We make all the decisions and we just decide what we're going to follow and what we're not going to follow. And that's not the case, unfortunately.
Now, when you say they have to provide a public response to any questions, are the questions and the responses provided within that, I guess, a procurement description that might be online on Bonfire?
So if it's on Bonfire, they'll issue what we refer to as a public notice.
Yep.
That has all the questions without any identifying factors. So
Okay.
those people that talk in the third person, for example, will remove that information and just issue the question, and then we'll issue our response to that question. It doesn't mean we have to answer. It doesn't mean we have to give you the information you're asking for, if that makes sense. So if you ask something,
No.
so if you ask something, for example, that we aren't going to give you, our response will be, we are not releasing that information. But we do
Okay.
have to address the question. So we get a very common one about what is the budget for your procurement. And we will commonly not release that. It's not against the law to release it, but it depends on the entity. You don't want to skew people's view. You want to see what people think it's going to take to do that project, if that makes sense. A part of us assessing your understanding of the project is how close you come into the market rates. And if we say this project's $100,000, everyone is going to come in
Maybe
at
with
100.
higher rates to meet that.
At 100. Well, not necessarily higher. If you are higher, you might bring it down just to get in.
Right, yes.
And then expect to make changes later on.
Right.
So we don't want that information to influence the competition. So we may not release that information, but we will address your question, is what I meant by we may not give you your...
That is so interesting. And that's how procurement works. And I'll tell you something, whenever anybody calls me and says, put a marketing plan together, or advertising plan, that's my first question. What is your budget?
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with us releasing the budget. There's some cases where some people will do that. But if you plan to do that, you need to structure your procurement differently.
Yeah.
Because you know everyone's going to come in around your number, meaning that you wouldn't weight pricing as highly in the overall scheme of scoring. Because now you've kind of created a situation where everyone's going to get the same score for the pricing element. So you wouldn't want that to be, 60, 70% of that procurement.
That's interesting. It's interesting. That's two different perspectives. Because for me, it's like, if you don't give me a budget, I'm going to make the most elaborate, expensive plan for you just because you didn't give me. It's like pettiness. Yeah. Well, but if you do, I know I'll give you options in the sense of this is what you can do, and this is if you have that top budget, man, I can give you all this. If you got a little lower, then this is what I can do for you.
Yeah. Well, there's some balance there. So we do have specifications that are set. So let's say it's a marketing budget, we will list, 4 to 5 videos over the course of a year. So you aren't coming in saying, I'm going to do 15 for you and it's going to be X amount. So we're going to put a scope around it so you know, okay, not to go too far outside of these elements. But there's also that same question period that I mentioned where you can come in and clarify things that you may be, okay, are you interested in digital marketing as well as, print, for example? And we might say, no, we're not interested in print. You can cut that out and put those resources elsewhere. So it is definitely two-way. Like, we don't want people thinking it's the government's way and that's the only way. If you have ideas about what you're going to do, you would ask those questions during the question period. And we see a lot of people not using that period very effectively. A part of it may be that they're worried that the answers will be public answers. So they aren't benefiting from the information privately. But I think it's better for you to get that information out there and shine on your proposal as opposed to the information you have that you think no one else has.
Right. And the whole purpose of you answering the questions is it is supposed to be a public answer.
That is
so everybody's supposed to kind of have that equal access to the information.
Yes. And that's what the public notice feature of Bonfire does. And I know we'll touch on that a bit around greater use of that system, because a lot of our system and a lot of our process depends on use of a platform like that. When you don't use that, it makes it more difficult for everyone.
Right. But now, not everything has to go on Bonfire. And that was a point that was brought up with the roundtable discussion. And it's something that I noticed when I was trying to figure out. We've talked about it before when you were first on. And I can understand, and it was a suggestion that perhaps all projects, no matter if it's under 10,000 or under 100,000, that everything should go on Bonfire. Is that a viable solution?
Not everything. If you're saying everything is in 100%, definitely not. Because if you think about it at its most basic level, if a department goes out and buys a birthday cake for a staff member, that is technically a procurement.
Yeah.
So if we say everything, we're saying, okay, every time you need a birthday cake, go load it up on Bonfire, and then you expect birthday cake providers to log into a system to give you a quote for something that's, $30, $40.
And that doesn't make no sense. The time and resources used just to do that procurement outweighs the whole point of doing the procurement.
So we do need to have a balance there. I do think we have a good balance in terms of our thresholds at the moment. So what's required at each threshold. What I do think we can bring down is that public advertising limit. So the same amount of information and time goes into the process. The only difference is instead of you publicly advertising that, you're selecting who it goes to under that $100,000 limit. We had previously...
Wait, I think I got confused. So you don't have to publicly advertise anything under $100,000.
Correct. Publicly advertised doesn't mean it's not competitive, though.
Right.
Publicly advertised just means that anyone that sees it can make a submission for that. Under $100,000, it should still be competitive unless a direct award applies, and I know we'll talk about those as well. So it allows you to ask individual people for quotes under the $100,000.
But it doesn't have to go on Bonfire.
It does not have.
So when we say
the solicitation doesn't have to go on Bonfire. No.
When we say it can be competitive, how do the people even know to compete for that if it's not something in front of them to compete for?
No, they'll get a direct notification. So we'll select however many people are invited to that. So it's still competitive, just not public.
Okay.
So this is what you would think of as kind of the standard 3-quote system. You'll hear a lot of people say, oh, I went and got 3 quotes. Right. That's our competitive process below 100,000. So 2 things there. 1, nothing stops people from using Bonfire. It is still optional and still recommended. But optional tends to mean not done.
Yeah.
I think we all know that, whether it's government or our personal lives. And the other big thing there is that we've actually put in a recommendation for a change to that regulation. Previously, so not with this current government, with the previous government. And it was deferred at the time, wasn't rejected. It got sent back down. So we do plan to put that back to bring that limit down so that more of those opportunities become public opportunities. And this will not necessarily fix, but this will correct a lot of those issues where people say, well, oh, I'm no longer invited to certain things. It removes that invite need. So you can fend for yourself because those opportunities are going to be public now.
Okay, I feel like I have a lot more questions regarding that. We're going to go to a commercial break.
Yeah.
We're going to come back. Thank you.
The Cayman Islands boasts of a long, colorful, and rich history. In tribute to our roots, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Historical Vignette Series, brought to you by Rotary Central. For more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. The Cayman Islands, he hath founded it upon the seas.
Captain Joseph James Anglin, 1899-1982.
Captain Joseph James Anglin was a sea captain who sailed to the Mosquito Keys, Nicaragua, Cuba, and Tampa, Florida. Married to Alvis Christina Chrissy Ebanks and the father of 12 children, he was a God-fearing Christian and a preacher in church. Known as a good neighbor, he helped to build a strong community.
Rotary Central Music Extravaganza tickets, sizzling hot and moving. Get your tickets now. Grand prize $40,000. Second prize $4,000. 6 $1,000 prizes. Sellers prizes up to $5,000. Get your $25 ticket from Rotary Central members. Rotary ticket sellers across Cayman. Eventpro.ky. Funky Tangs, Shudden Road. Rotarian Annie Rose Scott in Cayman Brack. A.L. Thompson's Home Depot, Georgetown. And other locations. Rotary Central Cayman Islands. Supporting more than 70 projects across our community, across the Cayman Islands. The 30th annual Rotary Central Music Extravaganza, Saturday, November 29. Jamming with Sugar Daddy, Los Tropicanos, and musical crew at Salty's Harbor Grill, Red Bay. Your ticket, your chance through Rotary Central.
Radio Cayman's Historical Vignettes was brought to you by Rotary Central. For more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects.
Summer's heating up and the water's calling. From cruising the coast in your boat to riding Yamaha Wave Runners, Automotive Art Cayman will get you ready. We offer expert servicing by Yamaha certified staff as well as engine repairs, performance upgrades, engine and electrical installation, and more. Need it tuned, cleaned, repaired, or race ready? We'll keep you running smooth whether you're riding waves or racing them. Trust Automotive Art for expert service and upgrades. Find us on Shedden Road and follow us at Auto Art KY on Instagram and Automotive Art Cayman on Facebook.
I'm Michael Webster.
And I'm Denise Brown of Cayman Insurance Center.
Family is not the most important thing, it's everything.
We have worked with the community and their families on protecting themselves for the future.
Whether it's providing top-rated life insurance
or protecting your family's household investment.
From our family to yours, we understand and we care.
I'm Denise Brown. Call me at 814-7229.
And I'm Michael Webster at 925-5433.
We are Cayman Insurance Center.
Specializing in property, life, and other lines of insurance products and services at an affordable rate. We are Michael and
Denise at Cayman Insurance Center.
Call today.
Parents, if you're navigating the world of boarding schools, it can feel overwhelming. Dorm and Day are here to help. You don't have to do it alone. Whether your child is reaching for new academic challenges, looking to shine as a competitive athlete, or simply searching for the school that brings out their best, Dorm and Day are your trusted educational experts located right here in Georgetown. For 10 years, Dorm and Day have helped families just like yours to find the best fit schools with one-on-one support every step of the way. So why stress when you can have an experienced partner by your side? Visit dormandday.ky or call 936-3676 today. Dorm and Day, celebrating 10 years of opening doors to brighter futures.
Why settle for noise when you can enjoy the hits that make you feel alive? Breeze 105.3 FM has the classics, the memories, and the vibe you've been missing. Switch your dial and catch the Breeze 105.3 FM.
Looking for fresh, healthy food that's full of flavor? Then you've got to visit Kirk Market. Our dishes are made with fresh, high-quality ingredients. Enjoy vibrant mixed greens or satisfying pasta salads. Or try one of our delicious grill options like blackened chicken, spicy beef steak, or grilled salmon. Looking for something light and flavorful? We've got sushi rolls and poke bowls prepared daily. And don't forget to explore a hot bar or Billy Fresh salad at the salad bar. Stop by Kirk Market today for breakfast, lunch, or dinner and taste the difference. Eat well, live well with Kirk Market.
The Buzz with your host, Kathy Miller.
Welcome back to The Buzz. I'm your host, Kathy Miller, and we are talking about improving the government procurement system. And in studio with me, I have Deputy Director from the Central Procurement Office, Mr. Robert Tatum. Right before the break, Robert started talking about the 3 quotes that government departments or ministries require if a project is under $100,000, and they're looking to see who can take care of that project. They do basically requests for 3 quotes, and you broke that down a little bit, but I was a little confused on it. Now, I know I've got a question later on in what I've got set up for us, but I'm just going to ask this question now. From my understanding, there is no standardized procurement policy per ministry that everybody can kind of make their own policy per se. Is that true from what you know?
Well, they shouldn't have their own policy. If they do, it would be very specific to their niche. But a lot of the things that relate to procurement apply to every ministry across the board. So, for example, the law and regulations apply to every ministry as well as every SAGC. And that covers so much of the process that their own policy, for example, would have to follow those guidelines anyway. And then our department does issue a standard policy and procedure document that covers things that aren't exactly in black and white in the regulations. So you can't legislate for everything, especially in a commercial situation like procurement. So you give general guidelines in the Act, it gets a bit more specific in the regulations, and then we have a policy and procedure that tries to fill in the individual gaps or anything that may arise. But most of those ministries, even if they have their own policy, it shouldn't vary enough for any individual vendor to really notice a significant difference. Because how they can procure is covered in the regulations, what thresholds are covered in the regulations, what the allowances for direct award are covered in the regulations. They can't just make those up. So I'm not quite sure what they would do if they had their own policy or what benefit they would get out of that.
And I asked that question because part of the feedback from the roundtable discussion was that every ministry seems to, and it can't be every ministry because they're not dealing with every ministry, but they seem to be, from their experience with the ministries, those ministries seem to be kind of doing their own thing and nobody's really following like a standard guide per se.
Well, it depends what they call doing their own things. Each ministry is allowed to set their own requirements in a procurement, so what their specifications are in scope of work, as well as what their rated criteria are. So for those who aren't familiar, rated criteria are those points you always hear about. And to certain ministries, certain things are more important. So you might have let's say you're building two separate ministries are building a building, similar size. However, depending on the usage of that building, let's say it's something medical. So if it's HSA building a building, their criteria will look very different because they will want people with specific medical experience, people with experience around maybe flammable gases because they've got oxygen flowing through the building, things like that. So when you pick up that RFP, it may look very different from someone building a new civic center, which is just kind of your, bog standard building, needs to be hurricane rated so it can be a shelter, and they may have a different requirement listed in there. So those two documents, in terms of the evaluation criteria and in terms of the specifications, will look very different by ministry. What shouldn't look different is the overall layout, because the template they're using is a template set by the Central Procurement Office. And if it isn't, then we consider that a problem. Because we do agree that we want our vendors to be able to pick up a document and say, okay, I know this document, I know at least where to go find the information, even if the information is going to be different from procurement to procurement. So I know on page 1, I'll find the schedule. I know on Appendix A, I'll find the specifications. I know on Appendix B, so on and so forth. And that overall template is set by us.
Okay. Now, you explained how it's going to be more of a competitive process for any ministries or departments looking for quotes under 100 grand.
Yes.
But that kind of flew over my head. I don't know why. Can you explain how, again, that would be a little bit more fair, because that was a sentiment that was very loudly echoed in that roundtable discussion, that it just seems that people are picking who they want to. Where I do know in I don't know if it's in your regulations, that it sets out, you have to have justification of why you've awarded the entity, that project.
So that's two different elements there. So the justification's related to a direct award, meaning it's not a competitive process. So if you've selected just one person and you've said this is the person we're using,
okay,
those justifications are covered in Regulation 5. So some of them require there to be for that entity to prove there's a single supplier. Some of them don't require them to prove there's a single supplier, but you have to meet some other criteria. So, for example, there's one in relation to, I think, something along the lines of exceptional circumstances have occurred and we require legal assistance. So if you boil it down to common speak, basically we're getting sued. We need some outside lawyers. It's not something we can now go do an RFP, but you may need to respond to that extremely quickly.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't state that there needs to be a single source of supply, because we know there's a million lawyers out there. So some of them are in relation to exceptional circumstances occurring. A lot of them are not. A lot of them end with, and there's only a single supplier. So that would be a direct award justification, meaning you did not do a competitive process, but you have a legitimate reason why you're choosing a single person. We can get around a lot of that by doing what we call a framework agreement, which means you've set up a competitive pool of people ahead of time. So when these things happen, you can go to that pool of people, which is a more complex process. I won't get too much into that here.
Because I'm going to be like, how do they get into the pool?
Yes. Well, that also should be a competitive process.
Okay.
But then there is the 3-quote system, which is basically a private competitive process, meaning that it's not going to be advertised on Bonfire or in the newspaper, but we do have multiple people that have been invited to that procurement privately that will compete for that contract. So that is where at the moment in a contract below 100,000 in contract value, that is allowed. Not that that's how it has to be done.
How do you get invited?
So they will just choose 3 companies to invite. It's just that simple.
Can you be uninvited?
You can't be uninvited once you're invited, but you can be not invited, if that makes sense.
Again.
So, well,
if you had a bad experience with me as a possible vendor and I rubbed you the wrong way and I was just a headache, would I be somebody that you would invite again to bid on a project?
Probably not. I'm going to be honest with you.
No, that's
but
what
it does depend on what you mean by headache, because there are some suppliers that show up, say they can do what they can do, and then they don't perform on the contract. There's a big difference there, because we also have, and I think this is the side that doesn't get enough attention, this is government money that we're spending.
Right.
We can't just be giving contracts to any and everyone, regardless of their competency. So if we are spending money with you and we're not getting value and there's a problem with your performance, it is almost an obligation in government to stop doing business with that entity until they get their house in order. But it shouldn't be a case where you've made one mistake or there's one problem and you're never invited again. There's also the need for rotation. So let's say you are on the list and you're doing a great job and you get invited every time. The person that's not invited is going to say, what's going on with Kathy? Why is she always invited and I'm not? So are we being told then that we should be getting rid of our suppliers that we know are doing a good job to bring in someone else that may not do a good job? But that's where that discretion comes in. But there is a certain amount of benefit to the public advertising as well, because you now get introduced into new technologies you might not have thought of, new ideas. So we want to move more to the public advertising than the private.
Yeah.
So that's where we're bringing down that threshold, removes that ability for people to to say you're not invited, because that's not their call anymore. The only thing they're responsible for is publicly issuing that call, and you can decide if you're going to bid or not. So the public advertising, bringing that threshold down, will fix a lot of that. And then when it comes to the evaluation criteria, that should also be disclosed in that procurement.
When are we looking to make that change?
That would be a change of regulation, so it would need to come down to cabinet.
Okay.
It's not the only change that we want to put forward.
Right.
We do know that they're getting settled at the moment, So we plan to put that forward probably early 26. I would say we already have the document. We already put it forward, like I said.
And you mentioned with the previous government, they deferred some of the things he wanted to change as well.
Yeah,
so hopefully
just send it back. So we need to update some things and send it back again. Okay. But that's one of the many changes that we are looking to
We're going to talk about more. We got to go to the 8 a.m. news right now, but we're going to talk about more. So everybody join us back at 8:15. We are going to open the phone lines. If you do have a question, it has to be in relation to what we're discussing here. And if you're going to bat them up, I'm going to have to cut you off. So don't do that. But we will take your calls after the 8 a.m. news.
Thank you, Kathy. And studio time by Foster's is 8 o'clock.
When you're on the go, the experienced team at Foster's Pharmacy are here to help. Drop off your prescription while you shop or WhatsApp us and we'll prepare it, ready for your arrival.
Whether you need prescription or over-the-counter medications, blood glucose testing, or advice on vitamins and supplements, we're here early in the morning to late at night. Both of our locations at our Camana Bay and airport stores are open 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., Monday to Saturday.
For more info, visit fosters.ky/pharmacy. Foster's Pharmacy. Better health because we care.
Yesterday,
today,
always and forever.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
For today's biggest news,
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
With your latest news, I'm Carsley Fuller.
The system is expected to make landfall over western Jamaica later this morning.
The eye of the, quote, extremely dangerous Category 5 Hurricane Melissa is approaching western Jamaica this morning with catastrophic winds, flash flooding, and storm surge expected today. So far this morning, the Meteorological Service of Jamaica says the storm has produced moderate to heavy rainfall over the island ahead of making landfall later this morning. Life-threatening storm surge accompanied by large and destructive waves is likely along the southern coast of Jamaica, peaking at 9 to 13 feet above ground level. The country is expected to get between 15 and 30 inches of rain. Here in Cayman, a marine warning is in effect as very rough seas are expected to build across the Cayman area today. National Weather Service's Shamal Clark.
Mariners, especially those over the sister islands, are advised to secure their vessels and remain in safe harbor. In-water activities over the sister islands are not recommended at this time. Over Grand Cayman, please limit or avoid beach activities, especially along exposed coastal areas.
Looking ahead, here's the NWS's Carrie Forbes.
Hurricane Melissa is expected to continue a northeasterly path across Jamaica today and move across eastern Cuba on Wednesday, at which time wave heights will begin to reduce. The current marine warning in effect is expected to be downgraded to a marine watch for Wednesday morning.
At the latest check, the National Hurricane Center in Miami says the eye of the storm is located near latitude 17.5 degrees north, longitude 78.1 degrees west. Melissa is moving towards the north-northeast near 7 miles per hour. A turn towards the northeast with an increase in forward speed is expected later today. Max winds are topping 175 miles per hour. In other news, a groundbreaking online tool launching next year could determine which projects get built in the Cayman Islands and help government secure millions in international climate funding to pay for them. CIG-TV's Kafara Augustin explains.
The National Resilience Scorecard will be Cayman's first data-driven system for evaluating whether proposed projects, from roads to hospitals to housing developments, actually make the island stronger against hurricanes, flooding, and rising seas. Lisa Hurlston-McKenzie, the Senior Policy Advisor for the Ministry of Health, Environment, and Sustainability, spoke to CIG-TV.
The ministry has been working very closely with IRMA and Expertise France on scope development, terms of reference, and project approach for several months. The official project kickoff, however, is a significant moment, and from this point onwards, the project team will continue to work very diligently towards a series of milestones, which will culminate in the delivery of a multidimensional, context-specific analysis tool. The scorecard has the potential to transform the way the Cayman Islands views resilience by giving us a tangible means to measure, evaluate, and track climate adaptation and progress over time. This can demonstrate to local, regional, and global facilities and investors the resilience cost gap, how we intend to use their investments, and the impact these will have.
The European Union is funding the project, which brings together government ministries to track resilience across the environment, economy, infrastructure, and communities. The scorecard launches in mid-2026 and could make Cayman a model for other island territories facing similar climate challenges. Everything from disaster response systems to food security initiatives will be measured against how well they prepare Cayman for future climate risks.
Now with the check of international news, here's the BBC, which takes us out of the newscast. I'm Karsley Fuller.
BBC News, I'm Debbie Russ. The heaviest rains for decades have hit central Vietnam. More than a metre of rainfall was recorded in 24 hours in the central city of Hue. American researchers say they found evidence of mass killings after the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces seized control of the city of El Fasher from the Sudanese army. The Humanitarian Research Lab at Yale University says satellite imagery shows clusters of what appear to be human bodies near RSF vehicles and a wall that surrounds the city. The Speaker of Georgia's parliament says the ruling party has filed a lawsuit to ban the three largest opposition parties. Democratic backsliding under Georgian Dream has led to huge street protests in recent years, with government crackdowns targeting civil society, independent media and activists. The European Court of Human Rights has rejected a challenge brought by young climate activists against the Norwegian government's Arctic oil exploration. They'd argued that drilling in the Barents Sea endangered the environment and their own futures. BBC News.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman with the latest up-to-date, accurate news and information. For your convenience, the headline news will be repeated on our sister station, Breeze 105.3 FM, weekdays at 8:30 a.m. Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or download the Radio Cayman app in the App Store or log on to www.radiocayman.gov.ky and stay connected to what's happening in the community. Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Attention Cayman, transform your kitchen for less with Granite Express Cayman. Skip the Christmas rush and take advantage of our year-end promotion. Offer is valid until October 31st. Refresh your space with our cabinet respray services and quartz countertops for as low as $3,950. Selected material. If you only need a countertop, prices start at $2,250. Don't miss this limited time offer. Visit Granite Express Cayman today or call 922-0424 for our free estimate. Granite Express, quality stone, unbeatable prices.
The 7:20 a.m. Weather Report, Monday through Friday, is brought to you by Credit Union, on the road to 50 years of serving our members. Visit creditunion.ky to join today.
The 8 a.m. Weather Update, brought to you by
CG Britcade, where people come first.
Pleasant good morning. Let's take a look at the latest weather report. Current temperature is 83 degrees. Relative humidity is 80%. The barometric pressure 29.70 inches and rising. The wind is north-northeast at 10 knots. Overnight low was 80 degrees. Synopsis indicate occasional gusty showers are expected through the next 24 hours as outer bands associated with Hurricane Melissa linger close by with a fresh to strong winds as the pressure gradient remains tightened across the northwest Caribbean. A marine warning is in effect as very rough seas are expected to build across the Cayman area today. Radar imagery shows scattered bands of showers in and around the Cayman area moving towards the west. The National Hurricane Center in Miami, Florida, continued to issue advisories on Hurricane Melissa, which at last check was located near 17.5 north, 78.1 west. It's about 448 miles southeast of Grand Cayman, or 200 miles for Cayman Brac. Melissa is currently moving north-northeast at 7 miles per hour, with maximum sustained winds of 175 miles per hour. Based on the current forecast trends, residents are encouraged to remain cautious and prepared as we monitor potential shifts in the projected path. Continue to closely monitor updates for any potential impacts or advisories for the Cayman Islands. Now, the forecast for today and tonight is calling for cloudy skies with scattered showers, especially across Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Showers will become locally heavy at times, and temperatures today will rise near the mid to upper 80s and will fall near the upper 70s tonight. Winds will be north to northeast at 15 to 20 knots across Grand Cayman and 20 to 25 knots across Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, with higher gusts expected in and around shower activity. Seas will be very rough with wave heights greater than 10 feet, especially towards Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Long action swells are likely along the southern and eastern coast and possibly along the northern coast as well. A marine warning is in effect for today and tonight as well. High tide will be this afternoon at a minute after 4, low tide tonight at 10:26. The sun will set this evening at 5:52 and will rise tomorrow morning at 6:25. And the outlook is calling for Hurricane Melissa to continue a northeasterly path across Jamaica today and move across eastern Cuba on Wednesday, at which time wave heights will begin to reduce. The current marine warning, in effect, is expected to be downgraded to a marine watch for Wednesday morning. Gusty northerly winds with occasional showers will continue to trail behind the system before decreasing in frequency through Wednesday. And that's the very latest on your weather report.
Aunt Angie, how does it feel to have broken the bull riding world record?
Sore, Sean. That bull was angry.
Angie, I think that bull is headed towards your red convertible.
I broke the world record and he broke my car. Oh well, at least I've got CG Comprehensive Motor to cover this.
Get covered for collision, damage, and more. CG Brit-K. Good like that. All benefits are subject to policy
The
provisions.
8 a.m. weather update brought to you by
CG Brit-K, where people come first.
Tune in every Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. for Radio Cayman's Midday Newscast. Radio Cayman, the people's station, your trusted official source for the latest news. The 12 p.m. news is proudly brought to you by Health City Cayman Islands. World-class healthcare within your reach.
Rotary Central Cayman Islands, in association with the Cayman Islands Health Services Authority and the Lions Club of Tropical Gardens, present East to West Health Check. Free for you, free for all. Free blood sugar, cholesterol, blood pressure, body mass index screening and assessment. Free physician's consult. The 14th Annual Rotary Central Diabetes Awareness Screening. East End Health Center. Cost You Less West Bay. A.L. Thompson's Home Depot, Georgetown. Saturday, November 1st, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The East to West Health Check, a Rotary Central community initiative.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Enjoy a delicious start to your day with breakfast from Subway.
Good morning. Let's take a look at what's happening on our roads. Traffic coming from the east on Shamrock Road is moving at a moderate pace. Further down, a little different story. There's a little steadier traffic as you approach the Linford Pearson Highway. Expect some delays, and traffic is steady but flowing on Cool Road, coming off of Barbara Thompson Way, steady traffic, as well as Agnes Way. As we turn our attention to the West Bay Road and for the Ritz, traffic is moving at a moderate pace in both directions, and no issues on Owen Roberts Drive as traffic is light to moderate, as well as coming from the West Bay four-way stop. Godfrey Nixon Way and Eastern Avenue flowing pretty good in both directions. Steady but flowing traffic on North Sound Road. Industrial Park area, moderate flow of traffic. Traffic coming off of the Esley Tibbetts Highway is moving at a steady pace. If you've seen accidents or incidents, let us know by calling us at 949-6990. Slow moving traffic on Cool Road heading to Georgetown. Expect some delays. And that's what's happening on your roads. Join us again at about 10 minutes past 12. We'll give you another look at traffic.
Did you know ordering your favorite sandwich from Subway just got easier? Yeah, picture this. No more waiting in line. No more fussing with cash. Just a delicious taste of Subway at your fingertips. With our new app, ordering your go-to sub is as easy as a few taps on your phone. Plus, receive exclusive deals and earn loyalty points with every purchase made on the app. Download the new Subway app today and get ready to ditch the lines and drive straight into your flavor. Visit the App Store or Google Play Store on your mobile phone and search for Subway Cayman Islands. Subway. Eat fresh.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Enjoy a delicious start to your day with breakfast from Subway.
The Buzz with your host, Kathy Miller.
Good morning. Welcome back to The Buzz. I'm your host, Kathy Miller, and we are talking about improving the government procurement system. And I have in studio with me Robert Tatum, Deputy Director of the Central Procurement Office. The first half hour, that was good. There was a lot of good information given. We addressed some of the frustrations that the October 16th roundtable with entrepreneurs who have bid in the procurement process, they gave their experiences. So we talked about some of that feedback, and we're going to touch on a lot more. I am also opening the phone lines if people would like to call in if they have a comment or a question. The numbers to call, toll free if you are a Flow customer, 1-800-534-8255, 949-8990. Oh, 949-6990. 949-8037, and you can WhatsApp, text or WhatsApp, call us at 925-3261. I know Susan is shaking her head for me being ambidextrous again with the with the numbers there. All right, Robert, so going back to my questions here. We're going back to some of the feedback that those entrepreneurs gave us when they were in here, and they said, hey, this is our experience with the procurement system. Now, some businesses did say, and you touched on it very slightly, that there's a short turnaround time for submitting bids, that it's unrealistic, especially for the smaller companies that have to spend significant time and money preparing proposals. So are there guidelines or minimum timeframes that ministries should be following, or can that be changed at all?
So there are minimum timeframes, especially for projects that go on bonfire. So that $100,000 magic number requires a minimum of 15 working days, so roughly 3 weeks of advertising time.
Okay.
And that's the minimum. And this is something we try to get across to all of our entities. That is a bare minimum. That is not suitable. This is the difference between compliant procurement and a good procurement. Is if I put out a $100 million project, it technically is compliant if I put it out for 15 working days, but it's nowhere near good.
Right.
Because that's obviously you need months to put something like that together.
Well, you said that's the advertising period. But
advertising period means when we open until the date that submissions are required to be submitted.
Oh, no, 2 weeks is crazy.
3 weeks. 15 working days, so it works out to 3 weeks.
Okay.
But some things to be aware of, and this is the type of advice and training we give to our entities. 15 working days is the amount of time we put it out for. That doesn't mean someone's found it on day one, so they may have found it and they only have 2 weeks left. There's also a question period within that 3 weeks, which is normally ends about the midway point. So if someone's found it after the question period, it means that they can't even seek additional clarification for themselves. What they will be able to find is in the other questions asked and in the other answers given from other suppliers that may be asking things that they have concerns about as well. So it's not that they'll find no new information, but they can't ask for themselves. And that 15 working days, again, because it starts at 100,000, may be suitable for projects kind of closer to that range. But as you move up in value, and not just value, complexity,
yes,
you do want to give much more time than that. And we have seen that advertising time rise. It is a metric that we report on, and it is in our annual report. So I don't have the numbers to hand, but it is a public document that shows that we do, on average, slightly more than the minimum, but it is something we want to push into higher thresholds for sure.
I would absolutely think that, because it does take a lot of time to put together a bid.
Yes.
And if it's, as you said, if it's, 250,000, $500,000, $1 million, like it's going to take, I know you said it's 3 weeks, but in most of our brains, 7 days is 1 week. So for me, it's like 2 weeks and 1 day.
But it's working days. So
yes,
the weekends don't
days,
count.
Yes.
So it does help a little bit, but obviously people have other things happening.
Yeah.
Like one of the things we aren't ignorant of is not like people are waiting around on government contracts. There's a lot of private sector activity that goes on, private to private procurement that goes on. So we don't think that people are just sitting there twiddling their thumbs, staring at bonfire all day.
Right.
So we do allow extensions as well. So if people ask for extensions, those can be granted. It's not that that's hard and fast that we can't change a deadline, things like that.
Does it penalize them in the scoring process?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Any extensions apply to everyone. So we can't give private extensions or whatever you would even call those.
Mm-hmm.
And extensions have to be applied to everyone. So one person may ask, and if it's granted to everyone.
Okay.
So it's, again, fair across the board.
Okay.
But one point I want to touch on that we did just before the break in terms of the under $100,000 threshold was in terms of being invited, for example. And I said, well, if it's a performance issue, you may not be invited to a second procedure, for example. One of the things that we don't want that to come across as is if you are executing your rights, that should be taken as you being mischievous or anything like that. If you're requesting a debriefing, or if you're doing those sort of things, that is within your right, and that is what the legislation allows, and that should not be grounds for saying you're not going to be invited back. A debriefing is one of those things that I personally recommend for winning and losing bidders.
Mm-hmm.
Because just because you won, it doesn't necessarily mean your proposal was perfect. Mm-hmm. Your proposal could have had flaws, and when you win, you can also debrief and they can tell you where you could have done even better.
Right.
Because you don't know who your competitor is going to be the next time.
And you want to be armed with that information going in with the next bid. Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if you've lost, it's obviously really important because then there's probably some structural concerns there, maybe a misunderstanding, things like that. But the key point is that debriefing shouldn't be seen internally as some sort of burden. This is one of those cases where we should be wanting to engage with those people so they can do better going forward.
Okay.
And it helps with our communication issues that were highlighted before as well.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you for making that. It's an important point.
Yeah.
Glad you made it. Okay. I want to go back to a large portion of the breaches that involved direct awards that you had mentioned. So those direct awards happened without justifications. So as mentioned, there is controls already in place to circumvent that. But how does the Central Procurement Office respond to what seems to be, I'm going to call it, blatant mishandling of the process if direct awards are given and there's, no justifications, they're not following the guidelines as to say why this award was given?
Yeah, so the direct awards have to be, depending on the value, have to go through the same committee process, the same review, as well as chief officer sign off on those. And where there's no justification, it really does come down to the fact that those contracts should not have been signed, and the only people that can sign them are either chief officers or delegates, or people have delegated authority. And the problem with direct awards in most cases is obviously lack of competition, lack of transparency is kind of the big ones. But in most cases, I will say to someone, okay, you're calling this a direct award. If this company falls tomorrow, what's your plan? Oh, we'll go get another quote. Okay, well, then it can be competitive. If there's a location to go get another quote.
Yeah.
But again, some of those direct award justifications, remember, don't say that there has to be only one supplier.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on the justification that they're selecting. The fact that they don't have a justification listed, these are things that we are happy to see highlighted. Not happy that they're happening,
but
we're happy they were caught, because one of the first things we did was request a full list from the OAG, and we're kind of prioritizing those in terms of what the big breaches are, if you want to call them that, and the smaller things. Because I know people will see this and just run with it and say every single one of those procurements that were breaches were completely illegal, corrupt, all these other things. If you look at the actual individual breaches, some of them are breaches in relation to the publication of contract award.
Right.
Meaning that everything up to that point was done correctly.
Mm-hmm.
It means that the business case was done well, the RFP was done, they did the advertising, they went to the committees, they missed the final step of publicly stating who won that bid.
Which is in breach of the law.
Which is still in breach. So it's listed as a breach within that 57. So it's not to say the entire process was a flaw or it wasn't competitive. I don't want it to come across that way, that we had 57 direct award issues.
No, it wasn't that.
So, but again, it's still a breach. We're not saying that, it's a small, because if it's a small enough breach that you don't care, then the solution is to get rid of the regulation. Because it doesn't make sense to just, keep something that's, one, not providing value, but then being listed as a deficiency. But obviously the public advertising does provide value. So that's not something we're looking to get rid of. It's something that needs to be fixed in terms of not just training, but who's responsible for that.
One of the things the Auditor General did say in that report that was published early October, and I have a bunch of quotes in here. That's about 4 pages of quotes. I don't think his is in here, but just by memory, he did say that these are some reoccurring instances over years. So what that says to me, how I've interpreted that, is it's the same people that are knowingly making these mistakes. And what you allow is what you encourage, which is my favorite Caribbean proverb. And if we know that it is these chief officers or somebody in a very high position like that is signing off on these projects, who is going to be held accountable? And I don't even think you can really answer this. How do we hold them accountable? Because we know who's making the mistakes, and they're clearly making it over and over and over again.
Well, let me put it this way. Certain things, especially when they're recurring like this, it really goes to show that you need a different approach. So, for example, if a issue continues to happen, as you said, it's because you're allowing it to happen. But there's different ways to prevent things from happening. So, for example, there could be technological limitations that we put in place so that you physically can't do something until something else is done. Just like, you're in any type of software, you need to click a button until you can click next.
Yeah.
Something along those lines. So if you can't get it dealt with through human behavior, you need to look at another solution, which might be a technological solution, where certain things can't be clicked or done until there's approval, where that approval should lie.
Mm-hmm.
If it's one thing I'll say for our chief officers, they're very hardworking. They have a lot of things on their plate.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when the law was first set up, they did a very good job. They used a UN model law to set up our law. A lot of the things that are required are standard, bog standard across the world. I think, however, at this point, maybe what we've identified is some of those responsibilities aren't sitting where they should sit. So a chief officer might be a bit too high for some of their responsibilities. And it may be that some of those responsibilities kind of need to be reshuffled as to who's responsible for them. And it should be with those people that have access to the system, those people well trained, because the chief officer are ultimately accountable.
Yes.
But then we need to, I think, determine a bit better who's responsible for carrying that out. So should some of that revert to the Central Procurement Office? If we're the ones with all the expertise, access to the system, and everything else, is there a case to say that some of those things should either be administered by us, or if we should be looking to place that somewhere else in the specific entity? So it could be that the changes we need aren't removal of responsibilities, but just kind of a reshuffling of who is going to be carrying those out.
Okay. So when it comes to controls in place to prevent the wrong contracts being given out or done in the wrong way, per se. Yeah. For you, the suggestion is a bit of a reshuffling of responsibilities?
Well, reshuffling responsibilities as well as some changes as well, I think would help. Because if you're getting it's one thing to say, I wasn't aware of something, but if the system you're using requires certain things and throws up a giant red flag saying, hey, there's information missing here, we don't have evidence of a justification. Do not proceed with this payment, these sort of things.
Then you can't take that next step.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's certain things that we could do that would not allow these things to move forward. There's certain things that are exempt from the procurement law, and there are certain things in terms of emergencies, which I think you might want to touch on as well in this session, where some of that needs to be overridden. But again, who overrides it is very important as well. So I think, again, you're not going to fix it through just human behavior, and some of it isn't specifically to human behavior. We have turnover in the government like any other company. So we might train people ad nauseum and those people leave. A new person comes in and is given that responsibility that no longer has that training.
Right.
So we've got to retrain that individual as well. So just like any other entity, and I tell people this all the time, when it comes to losing procurement, there's no person that gives you certain rights like the government does. If you lose a procurement in private sector and you ask who won and what the price was, you're probably not going to get an answer.
Mm-hmm.
We're obligated to give you that answer.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a lot more obligations, which makes our job a little more difficult, but we are the government. We're supposed to be a lot more transparent, and it is public money.
Because it is public money, yeah.
Correct. But it's on us now to put those systems in place. Bonfire is great, but it's not a fix-all.
Right.
And certain things, we still can use that system better as well.
So, and that's what I want to turn to now is the bonfire system, because as you mentioned, you could make some technological maybe advances or changes to how the system goes right now. There was a suggestion about bonfire and the scoring system there.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to hit that point. We got to go to commercial break right now, but when we come back, we're going to talk about that.
Okay.
Tired of burning cash at the gas pump and wasting time in traffic? Say goodbye to gridlock and hello to freedom with a Kimco scooter from Automotive Art. Trusted in over 100 countries, Kimco is now known worldwide for reliable, fuel-efficient scooters built to last. Perfect for Cayman's roads. With two models to choose from, the Agility 125cc for just $23.99 and the Agility RS Naked 125cc for $24.99. It's the smart, budget-friendly way to beat traffic and cut costs. Visit Automotive Art today and ride smarter with Kimco, because saving money should never mean slowing down.
I'm Michael Webster.
And I'm Denise Brown of Cayman Insurance Center.
Family is not the most important thing, it's everything.
We have worked with the community and their families on protecting themselves for the future.
Whether it's providing top-rated life insurance
or protecting your family's household investment.
From our family to yours, we understand and we care.
I'm Denise Brown. Call me at 814-7229.
And I'm Michael Webster at 925-5433.
We are Cayman Insurance Center.
Specializing in property, life, and other lines of insurance products and services at an affordable rate. We are Michael and
Denise at Cayman Insurance Center.
Call today.
Reading is a match that lights the flame of imagination, innovation, curiosity, ambition. Register today for the inaugural Free to the Public Literacy Conference, the Life Conference 2025, Saturday, November 1st, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. The Kimpton Seafire Resort, 7 Mile Beach. The theme, Early Childhood, Strong Start, Strong Future. Keynote speaker, Dr. Dan Worry, founder of the Early Childhood Policy Solutions. Register now. Go to lifeconference.ky. Life literacy is for everyone. Supported by Rotary Central, Cayman Islands.
Looking for fresh, healthy food that's full of flavor? Then you've got to visit Kirk Market. Our dishes are made with fresh, high-quality ingredients. Enjoy vibrant mixed greens or satisfying pasta salads. Or try one of our delicious grill options like blackened chicken, spicy beef steak, or grilled salmon. Looking for something light and flavorful? We've got sushi rolls and poke bowls prepared daily. And don't forget to explore a hot bar or Billy Fresh salad at the salad bar. Stop by Kirk Market today for breakfast, lunch, or dinner and taste the difference. Eat well, live well with Kirk Market.
The Buzz with your host, Kathy Miller.
Good morning. Welcome back to The Buzz. We are talking about improving the government procurement system. I'm your host, Kathy Miller, and in studio with me, I have Deputy Director from the Central Procurement Office, Robert Tatum, with me. And Robert, I said right before the break came, we're going to be talking about the scoring system with Bonfire, because you did mention, there could be some technological changes with how the whole system works. And one of the suggestions that came up in the roundtable that I had with entrepreneurs that bid for government contracts, They said, well, bidders felt that there's a potential bias in the manual scoring process, and how, if at all, does the CPO ensure that the scoring is fair, transparent, and free from human bias? And in asking that, it was said, you can automate everything, the whole scoring process in Bonfire, so why isn't that being done?
So it's one of those yes and no questions. Bonfire does have the capability to automate scoring. However, it's automated against the criteria set by humans. So you're not, if the bias is already set in the scoring criteria, that's not going to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
But there are two things there that I want to touch on. So one, the evaluation criteria itself should be public. So our template has a section where it talks about how points will be assigned, and they're not allowed to go outside of that.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to Bonfire itself, the automated scoring does require vendor input, which means we have to validate that as well. So if we do 100% automated scoring, meaning no human involvement, that only means no government human involvement. It means that the system's taking the input you've given us as a vendor, taking it for absolute truth, and giving you a score, which we also know that can't work. Mm-hmm. We also have to validate that you have also represented yourself correctly, and we may need to make adjustments to those scores where they don't. Those representations aren't 100% accurate. And some of it is professional judgment. So, for example, some things are very easy. I can say 3 projects equals X amount of points. No judgment needed. Besides, do those projects match my project? Mm-hmm. And then I add up to 3. I give you 10 points. There's no bias involved in that process. However, there's certain scoring that talks about the risk and benefits of your proposal.
Right. And that you're going to one of the feedbacks that was.
So I now need to read your proposal and identify where I see value added and where I see risk. And I can give you some common examples. We will have people that put in proposals that say this proposal only includes 2 hours of XYZ. Anything more, the price goes up. Mm-hmm. And we'll have other people that have put in and said this, my price is fixed regardless of how much time it takes. And I'm confident that it's going to take X amount of time, but if you need more, we'll give you more. One of those proposals has less risk, and one of those has more value. Mm. That takes a person to read it and assign a score based on what we're being given by 2 separate individuals. So there is that mix. They might be calling it bias. Some people may refer to it as professional judgment, but there is both of those can exist in the same realm. Mm-hmm. I assume the bias they're referring to is bias specific to their company, not bias specific to their proposal or what they put in. The fact that it is that person they feel biased against, that should not be the case. And I say should not because obviously the world's not perfect. But the public, the requirement to publicly list how you will be scored is one of those things that helps remove the ability for that bias to creep in.
Okay. Now, what you said, especially providing some examples from past projects. So this was a comment that was brought up in the roundtable discussion where some contractors felt that the point system in Bonfire unfairly favors larger companies with more project experience or higher value contracts. So I believe it was Sanjay Burrell from Jordan Construction, who was one of our guests, who said, you're only asking for up to 5 projects, and up to 5 will give me 10. But if I provide you 6 to 8 or whatever it is, 6 or more, I can get 20. So there's a big difference between 20 points, that is. There's a difference between submitting one project. Yes. And let's say in those 5 years, I didn't have 5 projects completed under that certain value, but I've done them. Yeah. So that was something that was brought up, that they find that points can be, I guess, irregularly weighed.
Yeah, and that was extremely good feedback. That's something that I do take on, and that's something that we can change at Central Procurement Office. So it is one of those things that's in our template. It's not a Bonfire issue. All Bonfire does is advertise what the RFP reflects. So if we say that that's how the points are going to be allocated, you enter that into Bonfire. If there's a better way to do it, we enter that into Bonfire. So I think what he is referring to, if I understood it correctly, is that there's a huge step up in pricing for a very incremental amount of additional experience, as opposed to maybe each project gets you X amount of points. So it's about a bit more gradual step up, and they would consider that a fairer way to evaluate.
Can you explain the window of 5 years as well?
Well, the window of 5 years comes from we want to make sure that that company is operating, and we want to make sure that company is operating in recent times with the most recent market experience, technology, things like that. The 5 years isn't something set in regulation, and it's something we can change.
Okay.
So if we think that 10 years is more appropriate, or if the industry thinks that that's more appropriate, that is feedback we can happily take on and make an adjustment to very quickly.
Now, I would like to think that, because of our conversation, the changes are going to spark from there. But that, my ego would be really huge if just one conversation is making you do change. But I would assume that you're receiving this kind of feedback from multiple vendors.
Oh, we receive feedback. So I've had 2 vendors come visit the office, and this is something you can do as well if you want to just reach out to the department, say we'd like to come and talk about what our rights are and things like that. We welcome that. You can come and speak to us. And you'd be surprised the amount of conflicting information we get from vendors. So, for example, the information that we got from this show that said, the 5 years and the 3 and references and this sort of thing is a problem. We've had other people tell us, no, that's not a problem at all. But again, people are going to give us feedback that matches their situation.
Right. And they might be that larger company who's able to...
Correct. So we typically don't make huge decisions based on one person coming into the office saying, please change this, because that in itself could represent bias.
Right.
So we understand that each person's feedback comes with their own bias.
Mm-hmm.
It's our job to take all of that feedback and say what makes sense for the government, but it's also fair for the majority of those suppliers.
What I love, though, Robert, is that you have identified a couple things that CPO can change immediately to improve the system with people. And that is the whole point of us doing the series of conversations. So I'm really thankful that you guys have just been open to coming in. And I know it's a hard thing to do. And believe it or not, a lot of people in your position across different ministries or departments are very nervous to have this kind of a talk. And I hope that they'll understand by the way we're having it. There's so much information to be given and a lot of misunderstanding that's been happening, right? So it really pays to have this kind of a conversation within our community to help people just gain the knowledge and make better steps. And I thank you for taking the time to really do this. Going to go back to my questions. I had to give you, I had to pop your collar a little bit right there. We did have a listener send in...
I think it's buttoned down.
You can still pop it. We did have a listener send in via WhatsApp a couple of questions. So they say, good morning, appreciation to the ministry, the CPO really, for educating the public on the procurement process. 2 questions. 1, when a vendor has won a bid for a job that they are provided with a written job contract with the terms and conditions, what is the payment time? What is the payment timeline once a vendor has submitted their invoice for work completed? I feel like that's 2 questions, but I don't understand so let me just ask the second question. What is the payment timeline when a vendor has submitted their invoice for work completed?
So the payment timeline should be stipulated in the contract. So if you have a contract that's on our standard template, which is also online, so anyone can go and pull down our standard template, stick it in ChatGPT or one of these things and say, summarize this for me and tell me, what the key terms are, things like that. The standard payment terms should be covered in that. So I don't want to give a fixed date because it will vary. I know people are familiar with kind of net 30 or like this 30-day kind of payment window, but that's not a standard requirement. Okay. So it should be an agreement between the government and the entity. What we do need is to make sure we have all of the information. So, for example, if you submit an invoice but it doesn't cover everything we need, it's not going to be 30 days from that. It's going to be 30 days from us getting a proper invoice because we don't always get the information we're asking for as well. Okay. But it will be per contract. I don't want to say that there's a set standard for that.
Now I've read the first question properly. My eyes are changing these days. So when a vendor has won a bid for a job, are they provided with a written job contract with the terms and conditions?
Yes.
Yes.
So, for example, if you go on Bonfire and in our standard template, again, every procurement has the contract that we're going to use advertised with it. So on our website and on Bonfire, so there's the department website and there's Bonfire. Mm-hmm. Bonfire is the e-procurement tool we use for advertising. Our department websites use more for educational purposes and issuing the law and regs. we have the standard contract we'll use there for goods and for services. So that isn't a secret. It should be something you know even before you get the job. All you're filling out is the scope of works, payment schedule, for example, things like that. Because that payment schedule may include upfront payments, for example, and those may be negotiated. So those will differ per job. But yeah, that's public information that's out there. Even our POs now have a link on the bottom of them that link you to the terms, and that takes you to our website and has all the PO terms on it. So all that's given well before the end. So even the losing bidders know what the contract looks like outside of obviously their specific content related to payments and things like that.
Okay, now in the contract, I'm curious about some clauses because it was brought up about if there's a change order that might happen in a project. So it could be where, and they really had to break this down to me because I was confused about what a change order is. So it's when an issue is discovered mid-project and that forces a new procurement process. And I think the example was given, like, let's say, for example, if this room was to be renovated and they came and they did their assessment and said, okay, this is what it's going to cost. But then once they tore down the walls, they see that, it's mold or dry rot or a plumbing issue or something like that going on. And it changes now that whole kind of cost of what they have to do because they're not just going to cover that up, right?
Yeah. So it doesn't force a new procurement. So I think a caller actually called in on the last show. I was listening, by the way, to kind of correct that. And thank you to that caller because we do have a standard variation clause within our standard contracts. And it's, a standard clause that says agreed between both parties. That does trigger some obligations on the government side to report those changes internally so that, the project team can make sure they have the budget to manage those changes. So that experience that the vendor shared, I'm not exactly sure why they would have gone that route of starting a new procurement.
What if it went over a certain threshold, like over $100,000, for example? Like that project they originally bid on came to $90,000, and then all of a sudden there's issues that they said, okay, it's going to cost another 20 more, so it puts it over the $100,000 threshold.
Well, that's where the reporting requirements come in. So you would make that report on that. But one of the key things that we want to note is that obviously that person's gotten that job based on an evaluation of their competency and their pricing. If there's elements that are unforeseen, there's normally a contingency to deal with that. So it seemed unusual that specific thing would trigger a new procurement. However, let's say when they took the wall out, they got into mold. And what we assessed that person's competency on to give them the contract was their ability to do plumbing. We're not then necessarily going to go to the plumber and say, go get us a quote to fix the mold.
Right.
We may start a new procurement to find someone with expertise in dealing with mold.
Okay.
So it is very situational. It depends on the procurement, and based on the competences you are assessed on, are you the right person to continue with that aspect of the job?
Okay.
Because we know the opposite can also occur, where you introduce a new person to a job site. Let's say it's construction. Now, where does liability fall if something goes wrong? You can create more problems by trying to do a second procurement because you're introducing a second contractor to a job. If they come in and break something, do something wrong, you can create all sort of contract disputes. So that is, I would say, normally dealt with fairly well within that variation clause. Okay. And then one thing I wanted to touch on for the payments as well, which just came to mind. So there's this historical idea that government is very slow to pay. And one of the things we did to kind of combat that was we looked back. So our payment system logs both the invoice date and the payment date. So it's very easy for us to just do a subtraction between those two. And we did it for 22, 23, I think in 2024 previously. And those numbers came in below the 30-day kind of standard. But that's the average. So obviously some people will experience more than that. Some people will experience less than that. But I will say those numbers were also trending in the right direction. So they were trending down to stable at below the kind of standard net 30 payment time. So government's doing much better in that regard as well.
Okay, great to know. So that answered all the questions via the WhatsApp. So thank you for that. We're a little late for the commercial break, so we're going to go to the commercial break, and then we're going to have maybe about 10 minutes, to wrap our discussion. There's so much more to hit.
Looking for fresh, healthy food that's full of flavor? Then you've got to visit Kirk Market. Our dishes are made with fresh, high-quality ingredients. Enjoy vibrant mixed greens or satisfying pasta salads. Or try one of our delicious grill options like blackened chicken, spicy beef steak, or grilled salmon. Looking for something light and flavorful? We've got sushi rolls and poke bowls prepared daily. And don't forget to explore a hot bar or Billy Fresh salad at the salad bar. Stop by Kirk Market today for breakfast, lunch, or dinner and taste the difference. Eat well, live well with Kirk Market. Parents, if you're navigating the world of boarding schools, it can feel overwhelming. Dorm and Day are here to help. You don't have to do it alone. Whether your child is reaching for new academic challenges, looking to shine as a competitive athlete, or simply searching for the school that brings out their best, Dorm and Day are your trusted educational experts located right here in Georgetown. For 10 years, Dorm and Day have helped families just like yours to find the best fit schools with one-on-one support every step of the way. So why stress when you can have an experienced partner by your side? Visit dormandday.ky or call 936-3676 today. Dorm and Day, celebrating 10 years of opening doors to brighter futures.
The Lions Club of Grand Cayman wishes to inform the community that the Delano Hislop 5K, 10K, walk, run, and 15K and 25K cycle has been rescheduled to March 29th, 2026. Stay tuned for more information on all of the Lions Club events. And reminder to get your Lions Club Benzorama tickets and help support all of the Lions Club of Grand Cayman initiatives. Drawing for this year's Mercedes-Benz C200 takes place November 8th at the Mango Tree. The Lions Club of Grand Cayman, proudly serving the community for over 50 years.
Get ready, Cayman. Gimme Story is back. 5 nights, 5 locations. East, West, Town, Pedro St. James, and Cayman Brac, November 4th through 8th. Enjoy local food, laughter, and stories from Cayman's best alongside world-renowned international storytellers. Show starts at 7 p.m. Fun for the whole family. Hosted by the Cayman National Cultural Foundation. For more details, check their socials at Cayman Culture. Gimme Story 2025. Welcome to Storyland.
The Buzz with your host, Kathy Miller.
Welcome back to The Buzz. I'm your host, Kathy Miller, and we're talking about improving the government procurement system. I have in studio with me from the Central Procurement Office, Deputy Director Robert Tatum, and he's been giving a lot of great information here. I'm very thankful that he's taken the time to really educate us on this and provide their solutions and feedback to the roundtable discussion that I had with entrepreneurs who were given their experiences with the government procurement process. So I'm going to go to a point that you kind of brought up and I didn't get to hit enough, but it was that many business owners said that they're waiting for the award decision leaves them in limbo, and that not knowing if that they should take on additional work because government might award them a contract or not. So is there a target timeline for communicating results after a bid closes, especially as feedback showed that some ministries issue no response at all?
Yeah, so there is a target timeline that is a part of our standard template. Again, we have an open date, we have a question close date, we have a project close date, and then we have a evaluate by date, if you want to call it that. So how long we think it's going to take us to evaluate everything we get back and to provide the response to those bidders. There's no sugarcoating this. We do need to be better at communicating when that timeline passes. So we do say when to expect to hear back from us, but sometimes that timeline gets passed and you don't hear anything from us. And we do need to do better at doing those updates as a government. And there's multiple reasons why that can happen. For example, if you're expecting 3 or 4 quotes and you get 8, that's a lot more work in terms of evaluation. So the timeline gets extended, not because we're not doing what we're supposed to do, but we got a lot more interest than we thought in a particular procurement, for example. But it could be as simple as stating that and saying, here's the new date to expect to hear back from us. But you get caught up in the evaluation. So most of the people doing the evaluations, they aren't full-time evaluators. There's no such role in government. They have a full-time job and they're being asked to do an evaluation.
Oh, perhaps we need that role.
Well, it comes down to subject matter expertise.
Yeah.
Right? So I think our system works from that perspective, but we just need to be better at communicating. It's just that simple. And as well, release more realistic timelines to start with.
Yes.
So that you give yourself that time.
I agree. So there's also the request to see letters of regret and feedback become mandatory.
Unfortunately, those are already mandatory. And when I say unfortunately, I'm happy they're there. I'm saying unfortunately, it sounds like people aren't receiving them. And this is something we are aware of. The more items get put on bonfire, the better we can manage this, which is why we want to bring down that limit to get more items on the system. And then we at the Central Procurement Office can start to monitor whether those are being done or not. There's no other profession, I would say, within the government as influential as procurement that spends as much money as the procurement function does, where it's not a professional required to carry out that job. No one is calling me if an accountant's out sick. No one's calling me if someone at the land survey office is out sick to come fill in for them. But anyone can be called to come run this project for me. So I think, again, it comes back to where does that responsibility need to lie? If you want a professional job done, it needs to be done by professionals. So there needs to be some restructuring, I would say, of those responsibilities there. But granted, we do a lot of training. A lot of our people are very good at what they do. I don't want to make it sound like everyone isn't doing their job. I could start calling names of some of the people I love to get a call from because I know they're calling me with all the information I need and the right mindset. They're very good at what they do, even though they're not officially procurement professionals. They are very good.
So the training aspect, it was suggested in the feedback as well to have a lot more training, really, to make bidder training mandatory, and particularly around understanding some RFP terms and contract clauses. Is that something that you would consider, or?
Not making it mandatory, but definitely making it available.
Why not mandatory?
If you make it mandatory, it's another barrier for that person. If they find a procurement today and they haven't done the training, I say, sorry, you can't participate because you haven't done the training. And that's not going to fly.
Right.
So I do agree that this is some place that we can branch out to. For the last few years, almost 100% of our training, I'd say at least 90%, has been focused internally, getting our own people up to par, understanding their obligations, things like that. And we haven't done as much as we could have on the vendor side. We do participate with the Small Business Expo. We partner with the Center for Business Development to do some small things 1 or 2 times a year, but we can do more on that side for sure.
Okay. I mean, I saw you guys at the Small Business Expo. I thought it was one of the most attended trainings, actually. So big up Victor Crumbly.
Yes, big up Victor. And as well, we already got some positive outcomes out of that. So
Wonderful.
We had a vendor contact us and say, I've been told something opposite from what you've told us in the training. Can you confirm that I understood this correctly? And we said, yes, you understood it correctly. And if it helps you get the information you're seeking, please CC us in your communications to that department.
Okay, perfect. Now, I want you to, there's going to be a question about the Auditor General's report. And then in closing, it's just to summarize what immediate changes Procurement Office could work on based on the feedback that, we had in the roundtable discussion or that you're already working on. So that's how we're going to close. But before I get there was a part in the Auditor General's report that talked about the emergency procurement being misused. Example, Ministry of Education used emergency procurement to refurbish the old George Hicks campus, spending over almost $2 million, and the audit found no valid emergency justification in that situation. So that's an example of emergency funds being misused. Can you speak on that?
So I can speak to the emergency procedure. So the law does define what a emergency is. So it's not just any and everything. One is that there's a threat to safety or life. One is that there's threat to public and private property as well. And then one is if we actually declare kind of a state of emergency. So a state of emergency is very official. Has to be a decision taken, I think, by the governor. I might be misspeaking. But there's a law that covers how that's done. The other two are much more situational. So, for example, after the earthquake in 2020, that would be one where you would potentially apply the justification related to property. because now you need to go get some engineers to go do some assessments on those buildings to make sure they are stable and safe to reoccupy. That's not something we can do 15 days advertising and shut the whole country down while we wait on a procurement. So there are legitimate justifications that you can fit under the definitions of an emergency. The CPO has also produced an emergency document that gets filled out before if you have time, but normally if it's an emergency, it'll be filled out afterwards just to document what was done, how much was spent, and which of those justifications you did it under. It's not that there's, again, a lack of information out there or a misunderstanding of the process. I think process is clear. I think it's one of those situations where situations are left to linger for too long, and then they kind of create an emergency where they could have been dealt with ahead of time. It doesn't belittle the fact that we now have an emergency, however, so you do need to address that in some fashion. But our guidance says that when you're using the emergency procedure specifically to address something, it should be to the minimum required to avert that emergency, and then everything else related to that should be done through the standard process.
Okay. Now, we don't have any time left, but I'm going to give you a minute, if you can, to just summarize what are the key changes that you know that the Central Procurement Office can take based on some of that feedback that came, feedback that you've already had, but how to improve the system, immediate changes that you guys could work on.
So communication's a big one. We do need to work on that. We're going to be doing our own internal communications on better communications, and we're going to do a lot more specific training in relation to how we go about communicating. In terms of the templates themselves, there's some very good changes we can make there in terms of making sure that the scoring is a bit more incremental as opposed to those big step changes that the vendor mentioned, as well as allowing those reference forms to be modified to allow for a larger range of time that we allow references and projects from. Instead of the 5 years, we could extend it to 7 or 10 or something along those lines. We don't want to keep it fairly recent. We don't want it to stretch too far, but it is good feedback, and it is something, again, that's fully in our power to change. These are things we don't have to wait on Cabinet or anyone else to change. These are actions we can take right now to make a difference.
Okay. Awesome. We are just after the 9 a.m. headline news, so we got to go there right now. Thank you so much for joining me. And, as said, there's so much more for us to discuss. I appreciate you taking the time and having a very transparent conversation and just showing already that you're trying to improve the communication. So I appreciate it. I know our listeners do, and we'll hope to have you on soon again.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us.
Maybe and make you a Buzz fan.
Maybe the first vendor training we can do can be on air, and we can go through some of those terms and conditions.
That would be awesome. That would be great.
Yeah.
All right. Quick. Slightly after 9 a.m. headline news, and then I'll be back in our next segment.
We are Radio Cayman,
covering Cayman Brac, Little Cayman, and Grand Cayman.
1 in a million. From Radio Cayman's newsroom, this is Headlines. Local, regional, international news.
The headline news is brought to you by Kirk Market and Health Services Authority.
The Ministry of Education hosts a congratulatory ceremony on Monday to honor 7 outstanding Lighthouse School students who successfully passed their City and Guilds exam. The minister delivered, quote, heartfelt remarks congratulating the students on their achievements and presenting each of them with a personalized certificate. In international news, the world's strongest storm of the year is closing in on Jamaica with warnings of, quote, catastrophic and life-threatening conditions. Some forecasters say the storm could remain a Category 5 when it reaches the island. Forecasters believe the storm could be the strongest hurricane ever to hit Jamaica with winds of 175 miles per hour. And Sudan's military chief has confirmed the army's withdrawal from its last western stronghold of El Fasher after the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces declared control of the city. The United Nations has raised the alarm over reports of atrocities committed by the RSF in recent days and has called for safe passage for trapped civilians. The RSF denies killing civilians. It now controls all 5 state capitals in Darfur, consolidating its parallel administration. The fall of El Fasher could mark a significant turning point in Sudan's civil war, which began in April 2023 after a vicious struggle for power broke out between its army and the RSF. Those are your headlines. I'm Karsley Fuller.
More news available at www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Check out our social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, Radio Cayman Headline News.
At HSA, we strive to provide the highest standard of care with compassion, integrity, and dedication. And so we say thank you, Cayman, for continuing to make us the most awarded organization on island by voting us the best of Cayman Islands in 9 medical categories. Your support reminds us why we do what we do, to serve the Cayman community with kindness and excellence. To find out more about our award-winning services, visit hsa.ky. At HSA, we are committed to caring for you.
Looking for fresh, healthy food that's full of flavor? Then you've got to visit Kirk Market. Our dishes are made with fresh, high-quality ingredients. Enjoy vibrant mixed greens or satisfying pasta salads. Or try one of our delicious grill options like blackened chicken, spicy beef steak, or grilled salmon. Looking for something light and flavorful? We've got sushi rolls and poke bowls prepared daily. And don't forget to explore a hot bar or Billy Fresh salad at the salad bar. Stop by Kirk Market today for breakfast, lunch, or dinner and taste the difference. Eat well, live well with Kirk Market.
The Buzz with your host, Kathy Miller.
Good. There we go. Susan got me singing over here on the mic because I was testing it. Good morning. Welcome back to The Buzz. We're switching gears here. Now we're going to be talking about Code Cayman. It's a local nonprofit that delivers a range of learning opportunities and technology for residents of all ages. To ensure equal access to technology skills, all of their courses, camps, and events are provided at no cost to participants. And I'm going to tell you guys, I've been for years saying, I've got to go to one of these. I've got to go to one of these. So maybe that they're now in studio with me. They're going to convince me to actually come to one of their events instead of just promising in my mind. So through their programs, they aim to enhance the local technology ecosystem and strengthen the local knowledge base and foster the growth of innovation and entrepreneurship in Cayman. So I'm going to say good morning to my guests. We have Jen McCarthy, director. We have Brandon
Caruana.
Thank you, Brandon. I didn't practice saying the last name right before you came on. Board chairman, and then we have Jason Nera, managing director. Good morning. How y'all doing today?
Great, thank you.
Excellent. So I'm going to ask you just to give a brief introduction as to who you are and your role with Code Cayman.
Sure, I'll start. I'm Jennifer McCarthy. I'm one of the directors on Code Cayman, and our company Tech Cayman actually joined as a sponsor in the very early days when Code Cayman was formalized as a nonprofit. So we've been involved since 2019. Very excited to be sitting on this board with some fantastic people and helping to kind of shape the way the country grows in the technology space.
Okay, wonderful. Brandon.
Brandon Caruana. I'm the chairman, I guess, of Code Cayman, one of the founding members. Started it back in, I guess, late 2018, early 2019, really with just a motivation to provide like free tech education and free tech literacy courses.
All right. And Jason.
Hi, good morning. Jason there. I'm the managing director of Code Cayman. I'm also the only employee of Code Cayman, so the designing and implementation and running of all the programs falls to me.
Okay, awesome. Now we're going to get into coding, exactly what it is. I used to want to be a spy back in the day. So when I think of coding, I go way back in, I just think of World War II and what coding meant back then, which is nothing as to what it is now. So that's just where my mind goes to coding. So when we talk about coding in this era, what exactly is it?
I mean, coding effectively is giving instructions to computers in a language that they can understand.
Okay. That's very simple.
It is. I mean, there's lots of different computer languages out
Yeah.
there, and the computers themselves communicate in a different way, but this is how we give them instructions.
Okay. Now what?
Brandon might have a better description than that.
No, I think that summarizes it perfectly.
I like that.
You use hammers and nails as tools. You use computers as tools, and the instruction of a hammer and nail is physics, and the instruction of a computer is digital.
That's true. And I don't understand their language at all. So for the inspiration of kind of founding Code Cayman and Cayman, why did you see it necessary to have this nonprofit here?
I think it was just, I think it just formed organically to start with, and we put on a Women Code Cayman course, and that was picked up very quickly. We had 30 people. The measure of usually of a course is, do people stay? And by the end of the course, we had 26 people still there. So it was clear that there was an appetite, and it's not my grandest ambition to create a for-profit education school system. And I thought that this is, as an engineer, this is something I like to share and teach people to do and contribute back to the community. So ultimately, it just evolved into how do we create this so it's free for everybody, and then we can provide tech literacy to everybody. So that was like the first 3 years, is just setting up the infrastructure, getting everything together, and COVID happened. We thought, well, what do we keep going, keep plowing on? Coming out of COVID, the appetite was even more. So everybody just started messaging us and asking us, when's the next course and when does this kick back off? So we started it up again, and everything just kind of kept scaling up and going from there. So much so that we decided to hand the reins over to Jason and give him the reins, because he's much more qualified than I could ever be to run a program like this.
So there was a gap, from your understanding, from your experience here in Cayman, in that tech literacy kind of field, and basically in coding, in tech. There's a bit of a gap here.
I don't know. I would say that there was obviously, like, the onshore world is moving pretty rapidly in the space, and Cayman has a smaller population, and so I wouldn't necessarily say there was a gap. There was a growing appetite to really understand how this stuff worked, and we just really wanted to fill that void and go from there.
Well, the Women in Coding event is the one that I was always looking at.
Yeah.
Was, I got to get to this. So that's the one you're going to have to really bring me to now, because I've said it. I've said it on air. Okay.
I can't wait. We've got Women in Codes running at the moment, and their final session is tomorrow, so we're having a little graduation.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
What is being involved in the programs? What kind of opportunities is it bringing your participants? What are they learning when they go to different events or a tech program, like the Women in Coding, for example? What are people going to learn? What kind of transferable skills they can adopt to their workplace?
I mean, it really depends on the course. Obviously, we're some of the adult courses, we're looking at AI and crypto and blockchain, as well as the traditional coding that we've done before. But I think, all these courses are, people take away as much as they put in. The only prerequisites for these courses are just some time that you give up and a bit of perseverance. They're all free of charge, and
you're upskilling.
Yeah,
you're really training yourself and upskilling. Is there a growing industry in tech in Cayman?
Yes, it's definitely exploding. I guess it was just, we saw it back in 2016 when I was working at a financial institution, and we saw that through that institution, we saw a number of tech companies being established, and those engineers generally just want to help people and teach other engineers and aspiring engineers how to build things. I find that the software and tech community is always outreach friendly and always wanting to sort of break any glass walls and make sure that everybody has access to the knowledge that they have.
Okay. Now, can you tell me about some of the programs that you do offer?
Really since I joined, there's been a real focus on expanding the youth programs. So traditionally we'd run coding camps, which would be a sort of a Monday to Friday 5-day camp where all the kids would learn to code in 3 coding languages and take home Raspberry Pi computers to keep on coding when they were done. And that's something we absolutely still do. But we introduced then an after-school program so that could run all year long, and those run over 8 weeks. And that's been a bit of a revelation. I think we get an awful lot more done in those 8 weeks because the participants can learn a little bit of code and then take it away for a week, play with it, tweak it, trial it, come back with questions next week and be able to share stuff with the class. So the after-school program's been a lot of fun. Walkers is now our official sponsor of the after-school program, so this is something that's here to stay.
Wonderful.
And then we also wanted to get a closer affiliation with the school, so we started the primary school initiative. So I'm off working with year 6 classes in the primary schools I'm working with 2 classes from Mary Martin Primary at the moment, and those run over an 8-week period as well.
Okay, awesome.
And we try to sort of fill some of the gaps in the curriculum that the schools are required to teach.
Okay, I love it. You mentioned something about Raspberry Pi. Was that a computer? What is that? The students get to go home with?
It is a computer. I mean, it's a fully integrated computer into a little keyboard with a mouse. It's probably the fastest and easiest way to put this sort of coding technology in the hands of all the participants. So they come in, they code for the week, and they take it home along with all the software that they developed that week to keep coding at home.
They're developing software as well?
Sure, yeah, that's what it's all about.
That's mind-blowing to me. Okay.
I mean, I think at its very heart, all of the programs, innovation is the sort of financing principle. So we try really hard to make sure that we teach them a little bit of code, and then we really encourage them to make it theirs, to be creative, to design their own fun and unique products. And I think some of the reason that the kids enjoy it so much is that sort of freedom isn't necessarily afforded to them all the time at school.
What kind of software programs are they building?
Oh, for the most part, it's silly games that
that's awesome.
That they've dreamt up on their own. Some of them get a little more serious and try to solve some of the world's problems with their little programs. But by the end of the week or the end of the 8 weeks, usually everybody's got a project they're working on, and they're all vastly different. And we just do our best to help them fulfill their software dreams.
I love that, and I mean, it could be silly games, but go back to your youth. Not even your youth at times, but when I would spend summers just locked indoors with my Nintendo, Super Nintendo, the original Nintendo. So that will show my age right now. But I loved games. I was obsessed with them. And if I could create my own game, I mean, game over for everybody else. That would have been amazing. So it's just where ideas start, and it will just show their capabilities of so much more that they can do, and it'll just really open their minds. So I love that. I love that they have the ability to do that, and that you're giving them the opportunity to learn how to do that. I think it's so important. We've got to go to a quick commercial break right now, but when we come back, we will continue our discussion.
Parents, if you're navigating the world of boarding schools, it can feel overwhelming. Dorm and Day are here to help. You don't have to do it alone. Whether your child is reaching for new academic challenges, looking to shine as a competitive athlete, or simply searching for the school that brings out their best, Dorm and Day are your trusted educational experts located right here in Georgetown. For 10 years, Dorm and Day have helped families just like yours to find the best fit schools with one-on-one support every step of the way. So why stress when you can have an experienced partner by your side? Visit dormandday.ky or call 936-3676 today. Dorm and Day, celebrating 10 years of opening doors to brighter futures.
Cruise into summer with expert service from Automotive Art Cayman. More than a retail store, it's your one-stop auto care shop. We offer paint, detailing, accessories, wheels, Yamaha parts and products, batteries, tire repairs, tire changes, and more. Need top-tier shine and protection? Grab Gliptone detailing gear, Chevron synthetic oil, and Axiom car care kits. Get expert service with premium products all under one roof. Wherever you cruise, make your pit stop at Automotive Art first. Find us on Shedden Road and follow us at Auto Art KY on Instagram and Automotive Art Cayman on Facebook.
As a parent, I know I would do anything to protect my child against cancer. As a Minister of Health, I know that the HPV vaccine is the best protection available against HPV-related cancers. The vaccine is safe and is being offered free of cost for 9 to 25-year-olds across all 3 of our islands. For more information, contact the Public Health Department on 244-2648 or 244-2889.
Rotary Central Music Extravaganza tickets, sizzling hot and moving. Get your tickets now. Grand prize $40,000. Second prize $4,000. 6 $1,000 prizes. Sellers prizes up to $5,000. Get your $25 ticket from Rotary Central members. Rotary ticket sellers across Cayman. Eventpro.ky. Funky Tangs, Shudden Road. Rotarian Annie Rose Scott in Cayman Brack. A.L. Thompson's Home Depot, Georgetown. And other locations. Rotary Central Cayman Islands. Supporting more than 70 projects across our community, across the Cayman Islands. The 30th Annual Rotary Central Music Extravaganza, Saturday, November 29. Jamming with Sugar Daddy, Los Tropicanos, and musical crew at Salty's Harbor Grill, Red Bay. Your ticket, your chance through Rotary Central.
The Buzz with your host, Kathy Miller.
All right, welcome back to The Buzz. I'm your host, Kathy Miller, and we are talking about Code Cayman. In studio with me, I have Jen McCarthy. She's the director. We have Brandon.
Caruana.
Yes, thank you. Caruana.
I won't tell you what it rhymes with.
I can imagine. He's the board chairman. I needed that laugh. All right, and we also have Jason Nera, who's the managing director for Code Cayman. Okay, you spoke a little bit about your youth programs and what you're doing here with Code Cayman, and I had mentioned that the Women in Coding is a big thing that I wanted to do. And in the break, I heard that, Jen, you did participate in some of the programs.
I did. My colleague and I took the blockchain course. It was a 4-evening. I'm not sure how many hours an evening, but it was a lot of familiarizing ourselves with the language and going back to the basics, because most of the programs, there are some advanced programs available on island, but most of the Code Cayman programs are really introductory or kind of opening access in a very inclusive and welcoming way. So for us, it was really about going to the beginning, learning the stories, making sure that we understood the language, and again, it's just familiarizing it, because it can be very intimidating, all of it.
Yeah.
And to just kind of deep dive in again in a very safe and welcoming space. These courses, they're fun as well. And I think one of the things that really surprised me as well is when you have the foundation of educators or the leaders of these courses as volunteers, I was never expecting the interest from the engineering and tech community for that knowledge transfer. So I'm continually surprised by people's dedication to it and to making sure that it isn't as intimidating as we think it is. And, like you said for yourself, you've wanted to do it, but you haven't done it. And I think that's pretty prevalent in many things. To take sort of the mystery and the fear out of it makes a big difference. And we learned a lot. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, if it's an open environment, from what I understand, and especially if you're aimed at trying to bring beginners into the tech space, make them a little bit more comfortable. I think that's so important, because it can be a little intimidating when you don't know a whole lot that's going on, but you're very interested. So this is a really good opportunity for people to become more familiar with coding. And we start from youth. You do a lot of concentration with youth programs, but you don't stop there. You have programs for adults as well. So I like that idea. I think it's a really good thing. I think, Jason, you had mentioned a little bit about being innovative on islands. So when we're talking about Code Cayman, and Cayman as an innovation island, what does that look like in practice?
Well, I mentioned how I think certainly for the youth programs, that innovation is sort of the foundating idea, and allowing people to use technology to be creative and to build things that are unique in their own. Going forward, the plan is to start to move more into the design and build space as some new projects come on, and Brandon's keen to build some autonomously driving jet skis at some point and challenge kids to race those. So these are things that are coming up, I hope, in the near future.
Brandon, if you need a test dummy for any of that, call me.
I just like to hack on things, and I started taking my jet ski apart, and that was frowned upon by my wife. So I stopped doing that and was chatting with Jason that we should probably start doing it inside of a controlled environment and figure out how to do it maybe on a smaller scale and not quite.
Oh, all the jet ski, all the wave runner guys I know, they all take apart their wave runners and soup them up some other way. And you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
I wanted to throw in as well that right from the inception, the Cayman BRAC has been a big piece of the puzzle as well. So the programs do, consistently go to the BRAC, and we've had some incredible opportunities over there with coding in various camps. And our company has education programs as well, and we stay very involved, because I think there's a lot of opportunity on Grand Cayman, but it's really important as well that we make sure the kids in the sister islands or sister island, I'm not sure that we have very many children in Little, but that we have the same opportunities so that they're also being exposed to, potential careers or, new tools for their toolboxes as well. So we're all pretty passionate about making sure that the BRAC stays involved in the programming.
Yeah, I think it's important, because sometimes the sister islands can be forgotten about, and to offer these kind of educational opportunities and upskilling opportunities for people, especially in our sister islands, is a great thing too. So I know it's appreciated that you do work with the sister islands.
And I was in the BRAC last week.
Okay, so
and we had a great week with the kids over there who were just phenomenal, and they were so appreciative of the time that we were giving them, and the parents too. They that pick up and drop off all wanted to come in, shake your hand, ask a bit about you, find out more about the programs and things.
Wonderful.
So they were all very interested, and I've promised them we will be back. So.
Okay, and I might start a small war by saying apparently the Brackers are amongst the most brightest minds in the Cayman Islands. So it is great that Susan's back there from the Brack. Like, yes, of course. She's preening. But I think it's great that you
all
are
the districts as well.
Yeah,
the primary schools. We worked with Northside Primary last year. We're in line to work with East End in early January. So we're making sure that we get everywhere.
It's good outreach. It's important, absolutely important. Can you measure, or have you measured the impact, the community impact across the youth and the adult programs?
I think one maybe the best gauge to see the positive impact there is really looking at some of our youth participants who there's a half dozen or so boys and girls whose first coding experience has been in a coding camp. And then they've come back and been summer volunteers at the camps themselves and worked with us at our youth tech conferences in the summer. And then in almost all those cases have ultimately applied to and got into computer science programs at university. And this is something we're really proud of, and it's so pleasing to be a part of their journeys.
So you can
I think
absolutely
that's a
measure
good gauge
it.
for me.
Yeah, absolutely. That's huge. Knowing that you might have a really influential impact on somebody's career choices and the well-being of their life, I think that's huge. You should be very proud of something like that. I think it's very important because we don't always get that kind of guidance, right? So the fact that Code Cayman can offer that is important. Now I got a question here that might be a little controversial to what you guys do as an organization, but when ChatGPT came out, they said, oh, that's it for coders because it was going to be, you could go to programs like ChatGPT, for example, and it will do all your coding for you. Now, is that and Brandon, this might be more for you. Is that a complete nonsensical idea? Will coding be around, or are AI programs, is it very plausible that they could just kind of take away that career path for people?
This would be a controversial answer possibly as well. But absolutely the path to having AI do coding challenges and writing software is absolutely coming. Now I use AI a lot and have built agents and different sort of RAG models and things like that. And what I can say is that at this point in time, it still requires some base foundation knowledge of what's going on. So I don't think it's going to go. I don't think the career path goes away in the sense that you don't need to know the fundamentals of how software is built and how to debug it and how to get into the nitty-gritty of it. Certainly not in the next couple of years, but given a long enough timeline, I can see that basically software will sort of get built in real time. So when you request, let's say, Google's website, what will probably happen is AI will be the recipient of that request on a web server, and it'll just produce the website in real time. And maybe that's not so relevant for Google's homepage, but it probably becomes a lot more relevant for immersive experiences in VR headsets and other AR headsets and other AR experiences that you'll have with glasses. And those environments will be will be rendered in real time according to who you are and what you want to see and in the environment you're in. So you can already start to see it where you're wearing these glasses that have cameras, like the Meta glasses, and Google has some glasses out that you can just look around and then go about your business like, oh, I lost my keys, and it'll tell you where your keys are, right? That's all real-time programming that's executing. And I think is where things are going to go. So that really requires everybody that has aspirations to be a software engineer to level up their understanding of how the code works and then how to interact with these agents and these autonomous systems to get it to build what we need to build.
I love your answer.
The ultimate beneficial outcome here is that as long as people have agency, knowledge is now a commodity. And so if you have the agency to solve and build, then you can go from there.
Okay, I love that. That's a great answer.
In one of our summer camps, we trialed AI where we used the first 4 days to really build that foundation coding. And then on the 5th day, on the Friday, I enabled Copilot alongside the IDE that they were using to code. And it really blew their minds. And it took them from the silly games that they had and very quickly accelerated them forward to other stuff. So they all left the camp pretty excited about using Copilot as their new coding partner.
Wow. Okay. We only have a couple of minutes. There's a lot of questions I want to ask and get into this a lot more. It's very interesting to me. But in saying that we only have a couple minutes with kind of major information that you'd want to leave people with, you have an event coming up? I thought you did. I know I mentioned something in the break.
We do. Every year we have a big fundraising gala, usually with a tech theme. This year it's going to be disco tech, so we're going full retro boogie on the night. It's going to be at the Grand Old House on Valentine's Day, February 14th.
Okay, lovely.
And from a timing standpoint, it falls right at the end of Crypto Week, so we're going to be the final big event of Crypto Week.
And I think it's kind of important just to jump in there of why the fundraiser is so important is because the programs Code Cayman offers are free.
Right.
So it is important, we do have to have some funds to, purchase the Raspberry Pis and make sure that we have, rent and a space and all of those things. So that's really why the fundraiser is so important, but it's also so much fun. So you get students coming back, you have the tech community, your mentors. It's almost like a reunion. And then the quirky themes never hurt. Keep the energy alive. So
absolutely.
It's a really, really fun event.
So really, for Code Cayman, it is a welcoming environment. It's a nonprofit organization, but it's a welcoming environment that will kind of upskill people in tech literacy, give you some fundamental basic knowledge when it comes to coding and other things that the program, that the nonprofit offers in terms of the different programs, because you did a blockchain one, right, Jen? Yes. Mm-hmm. So it's a very open environment in that sense. And if people are looking to, from the youth, it gives them inspirational kind of career paths as well. You're really opening up the mind. And then for adults as well, it's a way for them to upskill and possibly look at career changes. Have you had any response from adults that have said, hey, this has made a difference in the work that I do, or it's transitioned me in the work that I do in life?
Yes, we've hired some.
I love that.
From Code Cayman into our company, so we absolutely see the value that it contributes to people, and we see that they move from tech sort of nervousness to tech literate and not so scared to break a computer because you can always just fix it.
Oh, I have one I'm going to bring to you tomorrow.
and students who go through the program, sort of their opportunities for internships are kind of really increased exponentially as well, not just because of the language and the learning that they've had, but the fact that they've shown that level of interest to commit to doing a program. We are seeing a real uptick in their employability, whether for summer or post-college or breaks, whatever it is. So definitely there is a really tangible impact.
Okay, wonderful. And any last words that you might want to leave with our listeners?
There's so much available that's free learning online in addition to Code Cayman. If you want to learn about tech, start today.
Yeah.
And if you want to come be part of the Code Cayman family, we're ready for you.
I think it's all, and you have a very strong family, because you said you have a lot of people reoccurring they're coming through, which is, I think, a testament to the community you've built and the effectiveness of the programs. So big up yourselves. Well done. If people want to get in touch, how do they do so?
Jason at codecayman.com.
Well, that was easy. Jason at codecayman.com.
Shoot me a line. Happy to meet with potential mentors or anyone who wants to be involved in a program, or especially sponsors.
Oh, there you go. Yes, because we need to keep it running and we need community support for that. So, and big up Walkers for taking care of it's the youth program, right?
It's the after school program.
After school program. Okay, awesome. Thank you for joining me. I wish we could talk a little longer. Brandon, I'm going to get in touch with you now that I know that a whole bunch of things that you can do. So be ready for me. All right. Thanks everybody for hanging out with me on The Buzz this morning. And again, everybody keep your thoughts and prayers towards Jamaica. I'm going to go hit that news because it's been a few hours. I don't know what's going on, but that's where my thoughts are right now, towards Jamaica. Thank you to all my guests who came in and to all the listeners as well, and whoever participated in giving a call or a comment via WhatsApp. I appreciate you. I'll be back with you on Thursday.
The Buzz is proudly sponsored by Cayman Insurance Center, specializing in property, life, and other lines of insurance products and services. And Kirk Market. Experience a world of choice. And Automotive Art Cayman. Your car, our passion. And by Dorman Day, celebrating 10 years of opening doors to brighter futures. Visit